Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages. Weird day, lost my power last night. Computer's acting a little bit crazy, but I think we're going to be just fine. I want to welcome you to a special edition, a Saturday spectacular of Late Night in the Heartland. We don't do shows on the weekend, but this one was so special and such a treat and a pleasure to be able to get Gosia that we're looking forward to having a great show here today. And if you aren't used to this show, we usually have it Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. at night, right through till midnight in Central Daylight Time. We take calls. We have all sorts of information. We have different guests. Last night we had perhaps one of our best shows ever with John Lamb Lash talking to us about the Gaia myth and about the home story, as he calls it. If you haven't read his book, Not in His Image, you are missing out. It's one of the most important books ever read. We've got a great lineup for you next week. And today I'm very excited to be welcoming back to the channel Gosia. And most of you know Gosia. She doesn't need much of an introduction, but Gosia runs the channel called Cosmic Agency. And it's one of the more unique, one of the more entertaining, and one of the more informative channels on YouTube, in my opinion. Gosia has a relationship with Tibetan Pleadians, and I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And they provide Gosia with information, and Gosia provides that to us and to her listeners. Gosia is fluent in multiple languages. She's a very smart lady, and she's a thoroughly decent and likable person. I've always really appreciated Gosia. And Gosia, I've noticed on your videos that you have a disclaimer on there that says, this is not channeled information. As we bring you on the channel and welcome you, would you please, at the very beginning, explain to our guests and those that may not know you exactly what you mean on that disclaimer where you say this is not channeled information? And welcome to the show. And you're muted.
Okay, here we go. Hello, thank you very much for this amazing introduction. Thank you very much, Jeff. Yes, I have that disclaimer on all my videos. I included that actually not very long ago, because in the beginning when I've had my videos, people had this understanding that this information that we provide from Tibetan Pleiadians, yes, you pronounced correctly, was channeled. And not to take away from the value of the channeling itself, which is a real phenomenon. This is not channel information. We have a direct, live, written contact with the Tibetan team who are on board of Tibetan ship in the orbit of the Earth and have been for a while, and they have been communicating with us now for 3 years. It's almost daily, sometimes for hours, and we have a deep personal relationship with them, as well as giving information to the public. So this is very important to state. It's not channeled. It's a word for word direct communication. It doesn't come from me. As you will see actually in this video, this topic is not my specialty. It's definitely not coming from me. I have never really done any deep research on the subject myself. So I will just present what they told me, what Svaru specifically told us. This was given about a year ago. I was kind of sitting on the subject for a year before I presented this. But it was presented in the Spanish channel because we also do the Spanish videos.
Now, Gosia, was this something that you asked about, or was this something that they volunteered to you?
This is also a very important point. They very rarely offer or suggest topics to us or impose any ideas. It's all coming from us. And this whole work itself that we do, it was our idea to share. I always say this in every interview because it's very important. Because people might think, we were approached by them, with some kind of agenda, and that was never a case. They just spoke to us on a personal level, and still do to many people. And most of these people don't share anything. So this specific topic we had in mind for a while. We knew it was controversial, though, because we know there are a lot of Christian people also following us who still cling to that Jesus and Christ story. So we knew it was going to be difficult. And that's why we were kind of like not sure when to publish it or if to publish it, if it's going to be good at all for, beneficial. But I think it is. And here it is. And I made 4 videos about this topic specifically, very long ones, if you want to see them all in detail. And today I will just summarize 2 of them, the first 2 parts.
And it's a very powerful series. I watched it. And Gosia, I want to say that this information I've only heard from 2 other places before you. Number 1 was Joseph Atwell, who's the author of Caesar's Messiah. And then number 2 would be yours truly. So we're definitely right on board with it. And most of the people that have been exposed to this channel are on board with it. But it's very fascinating how the Tagetans bring more information and expand the subject. And I thought it was very fascinating how she said repeatedly that even though she was giving you this great information and expanding our knowledge base, that this really isn't stellar information. This is information available right through earthly sources, and it's been here at our availability all the time. And with that, I want to just turn it over to you and have you go on and tell us this great information. If I have any questions, I'll interject. And we're so glad to have you here. Please, Captain Kirk on the Enterprise would say, take the con. So we'll just tell you to take the con.
Thanks, Jeff. And as I told you before, you are welcome to interject if you want to add anything to this story, because I know you have been probably researching this more than I have. So you have interesting points to add. As you said,
longer than you've been alive, Gosia.
Yes, exactly. So as you said, very, very, very good point that you mentioned. I wanted to mention that as well, that before she gave us this information, she did say that this is of Earth's origin. This story is of Earth's origin. So most of this data is already found on Earth. So for any of you here who are expecting some kind of a big cosmic story, that I'm going to come and tell you that Jesus, I don't know, was some kind of Aldebaran man from dimension number 12 who came here, and I don't know, was Napoleon's brother who also happened to be from Venus. This is not the kind of story that you're going to hear, although I am going to interject some little stellar details here and there. But it is mostly found on Earth, and you can research this yourself. And like you said, there are already sources who confirm this, if you dare. But most Matrix historians themselves don't even dare, because it is all actually linked to Jesuits and all that, which actually I will go into as well. To summarize what I will go into, first I will present the historical context of how this Jesus story was created, as given to me by Svaru, by the Tagetan Pleiadian on the ship. And then I'm going to go a little bit into the Jesuits themselves, the Romans, how it actually relates to the Roman domination of the world, because this is basically all this is about. This is about the Roman control and dominance, which continues up to date through Vatican. And then I'm going to also tell you a little bit about what they told us about how the religious mind and how the belief in Jesus and the belief in the religious mind itself, it's a big block to the interstellar expansion.
Wow.
And how it actually stops us from expanding cosmically. It's not a sign of liberation. It's not a symbol of liberation. It's actually a symbol of oppression. That's how they view it. So I'm going to say something about that as well. Okay, so you ready?
Absolutely. I'm on the edge of my seat. It sounds fascinating.
Okay, so I'm going to actually be looking at my notes, because as I said, this was given to me and by Svaru. I didn't know much about this story myself, so I'm going to rely on these notes, as I don't like to distort what was said. Okay, so right now, I'm not going to look at you. I'm not going to look at the chat. I'm just going to look at my notes, and I'm going to kind of speak from my notes. Okay.
But Gosia, for what it's worth, after studying this subject for 40 years and being in consultation with Joseph Atwell, who I consider the real grandfather, if you will, of this information, everything that I heard on your videos was accurate. It was dead on. and it's fantastic information. And I have no hesitation in saying that I 100% endorse and support Gosia's work on this matter.
Okay, well, thank you very much, because I'm sure not everybody does. So let's go. So the first video opens up with the picture of Vatican, of the great cathedrals, and she's drawing our attention to the fact that ordinary people, let's call them that, even though none of us are really ordinary, the real people, we are all extraterrestrials here in Star Seeds, but let's say ordinary people are simple-minded, and they are programmed for generations to obey authorities. This way, they see something great and amazing, like a great cathedral, for example, full of ornaments and full of rich decorations, and they feel less. They feel that great power, and they kind of like bow down in front of it. They feel themselves without authority. And who has power, or who maintains the perception of having power, is who dictates what is real and what is not. And whoever has the power or the perception of maintaining the power has the resources to impose its own truth and impose itself and to create the impossible, something that actually we are witnessing right now with the world situation, which I'm not going to go to, not to hijack, put your channel in danger. So actually, one second, can I just do something here very fast? 1 second, because I would like to see your face as I read this.
Okay, take your time.
1 second, I'm gonna just kind of like divide my screen. Okay. Okay, so, and they're on the ship. They are very interested in our culture, and they study our books, our films, and they follow the development of our culture. So they are also familiar with the authors, and here Svaru gave us the quote. She says, "It is easier to deceive a man than to convince him that he has been deceived." That was from Mark Twain. And she provided that quote to kind of set the mood for that video. So first, she was explaining to us the historical context of the time, what happened in that time. So I'm going to just make it short. The Rome at that time was in power, and it had conquered the entire Eastern Mediterranean area. It was vast. The Roman Empire was huge. And at that time, like summarizing it, there was a group called Flavians that came to power in Rome. Flavians. Nero was one of them. Titus, Vespasian, Nero. They were major Flavians at that time. So those Flavians, the Romans, they faced a problem at that time with something that was threatening their expansion and their empire, which was a fast-growing movement in the area between Palestine and Egypt. It was highly linked to Gnostics. It was a rebellious group, and this rebellion was happening because the people were being given the idea. 1 second. I'm here losing my note. Okay.
And Gosia, you're very much dovetailing with the information that we received last night from John Lamb Lash as well. So this is very well timed.
Okay, very good. Just let me warm up, okay? As I go through these notes. Okay. At that time, and I'm gonna explain the concept of Messiah, why that concept of Messiah as well. This rebellion was because the people were being given the idea that a Messiah would come to save them all. But this was based on various things. It was based on the Egyptian astrotheology, which was also based on the appearance and presence of beings from other worlds. In Egypt, in Egypt, the extraterrestrials, the Enlil. By the way, I'm going to have a video on Enlil very soon as well, who are appearing and who are, saving people from problems, who are, giving solutions to their dilemmas. And they left legends of conquest, fixing things in favor of civilian population. So that was one of the sources where the idea of Messiah was coming from. So there was this rebellion, and that the Pleadians were dealing with. And this rebellion is also documented in Dead Sea Scrolls. So that's available. So now, going back to the Emperor Titus, there were those Pleadians. Titus basically, as we were told, with the help of his predecessor Vespasian, and that was between 69, who was the emperor between 69 and 79 AC, no, BC, AC. They together put together a tale, and now I will explain why they put together that tale, taking in what was already known about the beliefs of the area of Egypt and Palestine. And they created this huge plot to impose upon the people idea of a new Messiah commanding them, but in favor of Rome, to blindly obey Rome. So also on the side point, the Vespasian had this campaign that he began to impose on the subjects of the Roman Empire this idea that the Caesar was like a envoy of God, that he was God himself. And this actually continues to today through the Pope. Pope is actually Caesar. It's the same exactly idea. The Rome never fell. It just evolved. And that's Vatican, and that's popes, old idea of Caesars. So that's a side point.
Excellent information, Gosia.
Oh yes, this just wait, this evolves. So the people of that area in general didn't like this idea, didn't support this idea that the emperor was a divine figure. So among other reasons, they were also rebelling against that. They were tearing down the statues of the emperors and etc. And they had multiple people guiding them, like mass agitators. And these people, and this is where the word Messiah is coming in, these people in that region, those agitators against the Romans, these people were called, in the language of that time, and the term that was used in multiple languages of the area, they were called messiahs, which, as Isvaro here explains, is equivalent to Christos in the same languages. So messiahs, Christos, which means that any Messiah, which was kind of like a title, was a Christ in that moment. So it actually refers to any leader of the Palestinian messianic movement. There were many of these messiahs, Christos, appearing. It wasn't just one, but everything was just being pinned on one, on Jesus Christ. But it's actually wasn't referring to just one person. So this movement was growing and was very huge. And in many cases, it was quite military strong and defeating the Romans. So the Romans got scared and went into the alarm because they feared that this movement would spread to other parts of the Roman Empire. So, of course, they had to annihilate this movement and stop it. That was their way. With the iron fist, they would destroy everything on their way to maintain their empire. So now we have to understand that both Vespasian and his son, because it was father and a son, were military men.
Yes.
Military men with a military and tactical mindset. And that's very important, tactical mindset. They were very experienced already in destroying religions. Like, for example, they were the main Romans who destroyed Druids. In Britain, England, Ireland, they murdered Druids. Also because the clear connection between Druids, mainly Irish, and Egypt. And here there is Ireland-Egypt connection. There also very few historians there to delve into.
Do you think you'll get more information about that at some point?
Yes, about the island Egypt connection.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will write that down mentally, and maybe I can evolve that specific thread more. So you have to understand, Vespasian and Titus had a military knowledge and tactical expertise. So Nero, who was also belonging to that group, Flavian, he called them in. They were Roman generals in his service. He called them in to suppress and defeat the rebellion in Palestine, Egypt, since they already did it with Druids. So what they did next was they sent a huge military force of some 70,000 soldiers to that area to suppress and to basically crush that whole rebellion. And of course, they destroyed everything in their path. So now this is also an interesting detail, which I'm sure people who study the subject know. During their military actions in the Galilee area, the general Vespasian, he captured a man, a rebel, and one of the messiahs, one of the leaders of the movements, and his name is Josephus Bar Matthias, who explained to those generals, Vespasian and Titus, a lot about the beliefs of the movement and how everything worked. So he basically became a traitor. He basically betrayed them and became one of their Romans. Okay. So, yes.
And Gosia, you probably know this, but they actually adopted him into the family. That's why he was named Flavius Josephus.
Okay, interesting. Yes. Yes, I'm skipping some parts of the story as well, just to give you a summary.
Yeah, this is fantastic information. We're all on the edge of our seat. It's very, very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's not my expertise, though, so I'm trying my best here to summarize this.
No, you're crushing it, Gosia. You're killing it. You're doing great.
So in the end, it's not the end yet, of course. So the Titus was like this great hero of Rome. I can hear myself through your.
I don't have any feedback over here at all. It sounds perfect.
Okay. Well, it's okay. So the area was already defeated. They defeated the area, basically, with those 70,000 soldiers, a huge army. But in Egypt, the movement still continued. All the documents were destroyed, but you have to remember that Rome had the protocol of never destroying everything. They never destroyed everything. Only the copies. They were leaving. They were retaining all the other materials and taking it to Rome, confiscating it, studying it, where all this material is until now in the Vatican Library. So that's a side point as well. So now, since they realized, the Romans, that they could not really erase religion itself with the use of force alone, this is important, they set out another plan to, they formulated this plot to influence let's call them Jewish religions of the time with the ideology that was convenient to their interests. Because, as you know, not everything can be erased and controlled with the use of power and military power. Mind control actually is much more effective if you know how to apply it. I'm saying Jewish religions of the time, but it wasn't really called that way. Yet at that time, that name came later. So those Jewish religions were a mix of different ideas and religious concepts of the past. They were Gnostic concepts mixed with Egyptian and monotheistic concepts that were also born from the influence of solar worship coming from Akhenaten and Nefertiti, some 12,000 years before. So anyway, so they decided, okay, we cannot destroy it. We have to influence it somehow and make it convenient for us. So the Flavians ordered the scriptures to be written. And okay, here I have a point noted. How they were able to write convincing scriptures for the people is because they had a collaboration with various Palestinian intellectuals who were cooperating with Rome, traitors. And of course, among them, Josephus as the main one. And this guy began to write the history, which was basically paralleling, and I'm going to explain this too, paralleling the military campaigns and wars of Titus, mixing with other pre-existing stories already floating around. So this was a military strategy, and really, if you investigate this, you will find information about this. This is not, like I'm saying, it's not coming from Venus on any other planet. This is Earth. This is Earth origin story. Research this. So this was a military strategy from Vespasian and Titus. And here Svaru is saying with those words specifically, she says, I accuse those two, father and son, of causing all the suffering that the Catholic and the Judaic religions unleashed. Nero, Vespasian, and Titus committed a grave crime against consciousness and humanity, and it is a crime that continues to be perpetuated today. Now, they took advantage of the already existing movements, beliefs, and events, because that's basically how it all worked. It also is the same story with the Sumerian tablets, with the Old Testament. They are all based on some kind of real event, some real individuals here and there, but it is all adapted to fit their agenda. Jesus, for example, as a character, she's saying here, he could not have existed because of multiple parallels with other deities and characters in the ancient world long before him, such as Horus and even Buddha himself. So they took advantage of what was already there. It's like here, Svaru is explaining, it's like a hand-to-hand fight, using the opponent's strength and inertia to defeat him. Basic principle in martial arts.
Yes.
Basically the same as the CIA has done with the New Age movement. They have taken some valid, accurate concepts, but they have turned them against us in a way. That's another topic. So, okay. So here, Svaru is explaining that this is not their specific stellar information. It is almost everything is already there. It's not a theory. It's documented. And as she says, worst of all is that it is available to the masses, at least to a good degree, but people ignore it because they are so indoctrinated. And I will speak a little bit about that indoctrination and why and how they are stuck to that idea of their personal Jesus and why it's so difficult for them to let go of that. So here she's also adding a point that this is not a stellar information. This is the Earth conspiracy and distinctly human crime with little or no participation of star races. And here she's adding a little detail saying that at that time in itself is actually characterized by the very little presence in the area of the Federation teams as well as stellar races. I don't know how well informed your audience is about the Federation and all that, but it's definitely real.
We've had you on a couple of times, Gosia, and you've shared great information. And I think a lot of the people that are on our channel also like to watch your channel. I know my wife does, and her brother does, and we really enjoy your work. We don't have to agree with everything to enjoy and appreciate your work.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So at that time, as she was saying, there was very little presence of the stellar races. So this is like a totally human invention and human story, human conspiracy. Here, Svaru is also making a point that many conspiranoids, even the most seasoned people who are digging into conspiracy theories, they still believe in the historical character of Jesus. Like they are stuck there and they are not moving from there. And many of them are even talking about a conspiracy to erase Jesus. Like us speaking about no existence of Jesus is a conspiracy against Jesus. But she is seeing that as a movement to shield Jesus by the Jesuits part.
So
I'm gonna get
profound.
into it.
So profound.
Yes, that the Jesuit part, that will I will explain more about that. So that's a very important point as well. Here, okay, here she's explaining that in Rome, religions were not an isolated entity or institution. They were actually part of the state, like a branch that was directly controlled from the Caesar's own throne, and they were directly seen as a method for crowd control. That's what it was. So Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, as they call it, three-horned monster, were created explicitly for the purpose of controlling and altering those, let's call, Judaic religions of the time, to introduce religious concepts to that rebellious population, so that the Roman Empire would not have to resort to the military force to control them. They are basically using religion as a weaponized religion. Very important point. Rome has not fallen. It just became the Vatican. Pope is Caesar. They stated that. They keep stating that point over and over again.
And incidentally, when the first time I was on Coast to Coast AM, George Norrie and I came to that same conclusion and agree that it's very likely that Rome never did fall. It's just changed.
Exactly. We have been under this Roman control for over, I don't know, 3,000 years.
Right.
So it's actually funny, because once you really, it really makes so much sense, and once you realize this, it's becomes so clear. It becomes so clear. The Caesars had this deification program of the emperors of Rome, and the Pope. When you look at it, it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. I think they made the John Paul II. They made him a saint. He was a Polish person. He was a Polish Pope. I'm from Poland, so he was very loved and known in Poland. So Titus became son of God because his father was Vespasian, son of God. So that's another point here that points to that concept of son of God and how that was emerging. So again, the Flavians, specifically Vespasian and Titus, they had the expertise and they had the means and the motivation to create such a big story to control the masses. And Svaro was saying that the evidence is overwhelming against the Flavians as the authors of everything. And I'm here now going very fast through the summary of the story, but even she was going fast through the summary of the story. So I'm giving you a summary of the summary that she gave me, but she told me that there's so much overwhelming evidence that she could just go on and on describing all these little details.
Gosia, why do you think that even conspiranoids, as you say it, and I love that term, why do you think even conspiranoids who are so good at examining the Fed, they're so good at examining the jab, they're so good at examining the CIA, the FBI, they're so good at examining everything, but when it comes to examining the Jesus story or the Bible itself, the brakes go on and they just refuse to do it? Why is that the one subject that can't be touched, in your opinion?
Svaro was mentioning a little bit about that as well, and she was specific about, it's kind of like the scientific circles that if you come up with an alternative view, you are not going to be accepted by those scientific communities. So here you have a Jesuit communities that control everything, and if you are not kind of approved by their communities and by their universities, the clergy, they have to go through specific protocols in order to execute their work. And I think they have some kind of an oath that they have to take, that they're not going to betray the order or their teachings. I don't know, something like that. So when you when you step into those territories of alternative views on Jesus, you are met with that huge opposition that was put in place by those Jesuits. And many of them are paid agents. Many of them are researchers who are basing themselves on other researchers who are basing themselves on implanted records, because that's what they were doing as well. They were implanting information. They had 2,000 years to perfect this lie. 2,000 years. So they had implanted the records. They had implanted the information. They had so much time to perfect and master this whole story. So, but I think it all, and on the top of it all, it comes down to the Jesuits protecting this.
Absolutely.
And their story is crumbling, actually. More and more people are becoming free of these religious ties. And that's one of the reasons why they are being desperate right now and resorting to other methods. Again, I'm making a hint to the current situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so going back to the story, here, this is funny. Yes. Exactly. She's saying the evidence is overwhelming is the Flavians. And, if people are saying there are records of Jesus and there are records of that and that, yes, because it has been set up this way. Like I said, they had 2,000 years to perfect this story, and many of the records were planted. And now a little stellar detail here is that actually, it may be too much for someone to believe, but actually a lot of historical records, it's even planted into the past from the future. Like from this time, you can actually plant. Yes, you can plant and insert information, data, records, event into the past. Yes, because there is that technology available, and you can do that. So that's something that is not found on Earth. This information specifically, it's coming from them. So it becomes very easily becomes very complex. Yes,
that's amazing.
Yes, it becomes very complicated, and as you see, the lie becomes stronger, and it's very difficult to dismantle it. Now, she's saying the records that are used to validate Christianity and Jesus are the Gospels. But there is strong evidence that those were written by the assistance of the Flavians themselves. And like I said, here she's mentioning this point again. Yes, they had a lot of time to perfect their religions, to create countless alternate stories, to erase documents, to contradict the documents, to create artifacts. That's another thing. Artifacts can be implanted too, from the present time into the past, to support a certain story or agenda. And then the historians will find that artifact, and they'll be all happy that they found an evidence of something.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
hey, God, didn't she also share with you the meaning of the word gospel? I found that very fascinating.
Yeah, the gospel, the good news of military actions. She says it comes from Evangelion, which means the good news of military actions. So as you see, this is going to be paralleling military actions of Titus, and I'm going to get into that a little bit. So also, she's pointing our attention to this literary structure of the Gospels, and they were very classical and literary. They had a very classical literary structure, which is also pointing to the authors of those Gospels. So, okay, which I will also mention a bit later. So yes. The Gospels were not written in Aramaic or Judaic, but in Greek and Latin. That's what she says. So it's a convicting evidence here of who wrote them, where they came from. Because if they were written, if they had been written by the followers of Jesus, who were simple people, simple-minded, they spoke in Aramaic, they would not have those literary skills to write all this. This didn't come from them. It's so obvious. So they left the evidence of that themselves. They self-convicted themselves through that. And also another thing you must notice is that the subjects in the Gospels, they denote a clear trend in favor of Rome. The best example of that here is like giving Caesar what is Caesar's.
Yes.
And at one point, Jesus is saying, you should pay taxes to Romans or things like that. So if those texts she's explaining were written and created by disciples of Jesus, why aren't the Romans depicted as a real bad guys? Because they were the invading force in that area. I mean, study history. So it would be obvious that those Gospels would be stating that it's Romans who are the evil guys here. But not only the Romans are not presented as the evil guys here, but it's the Jews. Let's call them Jews, but they would call that later. It's the Jews, those rebellious movement, as the agents of evil, because it's those groups that the Romans wanted to stop. They wanted to suffocate those groups. So they paint those Jews as those people, local people, as separate from Jesus and his disciple, who is a symbol of love and peace, and who is kind of saying everything in favor of Romans. So this way they are creating the separation between the elements that were in the society that were fighting against Rome and the peaceful followers of Jesus who are obedient to Rome, turning the other cheek.
And Gosia, if you think about it, Jesus in one place is called the Prince of Peace, and he's really the Prince of Pax Romana, because if you do what Jesus said, you turn the other cheek. If they ask you to carry their military pack for 1 mile, you carry it for 2. If you're a slave, you be content with your wages. You give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Then you will have peace, which means the Romans won't kill you because you're going along with everything they say.
Well, exactly, and it's exactly the same thing that they are actually now that they have done to the New Age movement. That you're not supposed to rebel, you're not supposed to oppose, you're just supposed to sit there and meditate and visualize happiness, and all will be good. And you're not supposed to fight back, because the spiritual people don't fight back. They don't, they are not able to defend themselves. And that's what they want. And that's what they wanted at that time. And that's what they want here and now as well, because it's the same people running the world still.
Such an important point, Gosia. Such an important point.
It is. And so she's stating this point very clearly, that what the Romans wanted is to foster this anti-Jewish environment to isolate that rebellion and cut it off. And they are replacing it with this benevolent concept according to the interest of Rome, even to the point of blaming the Jews for his death. Here she's explaining another point. I'm just going to read this. Another point is that I use the Jewish people here so that it is understood what I'm talking about, because at that time they did not have that name, because they were the people of Galilee, or any people that followed the previous Judaic religion. Judaic also as a modern name for that group of peoples who followed the concepts planted by Nefertiti and Akhenaten, basically atonistic monotheism of solar worship, but also it was mixed with other Egyptian traditions, etc. So basically they needed a scapegoat to blame someone for the death of their Messiah, the Savior, Jesus, as a punishment for the rebellion that they were forming against the Roman occupation. Okay. Yeah?
I just said absolutely.
Okay. So Vespasian and Titus, like I said, they were expert in this, and they were expert of using propaganda also in destructions of religions, experts in manipulating people. So again, she's here stating very clearly, they created the concept of Jesus using Titus's military campaign for population control, using religion to suppress and modify the behavior of the people of Galilee and Palestine. Now, who wrote the Old Testament? I actually asked Aneka this question earlier today. I was with her online. Aneka is our contact as well. She's the girl on the board of the ship. And I asked her, okay, who wrote Old Testament? Because if the Gospels were written by those Pleadians, who wrote the Old Testament? I wasn't sure on that part. as I was preparing for this interview. And she said, I'm just going to read this too. She says, the Pleadians as well. They did not write them. They put them together from a large amount of old manuscripts from many sources all over the ancient world, including Gnostic teachings, Egyptian texts, and whatever they found in a recently looted Alexandria library. Because in Alexandria, how do you read that? Alexandria?
That's good. Alexandria
library had the vast amount of texts even going back to Atlantis times. They were stellar stories of those Atlantis stellar kings and people. So they were basing themselves on what they found in Alexandria library, because as I said, they didn't destroy it. They were just destroying copies here and there, and maybe some originals were destroyed as well. But their protocol was to confiscate that and study deeply with their people. So the Old Testament stories were based on some of those texts found in Alexandria, stories of Atlantis, Greek influence, even Indian influence. So as she says here, it's a mixture of everything that they could get their hands on and could be useful to them, twisting into their advantage, of course. And that's why the Old Testament and even the New Testament is such a mix of stories that some of it could be even true. It's not like it's all lies. There's some stories there, but it's all twisted and used for the agenda. So you have to know how to read it. As they told us, those texts are written on different levels for not literary people who don't know how to read it, and they will take everything literally. And then on another level, they will be understood in a different way. But in short, they said, neither Old Testament or New Testament are not a good source to learn history. That's in short. So, as I said, just talking about the Library of Alexandria a little bit, they contain the documents from all over the world, and it was hundreds of years old, and it was a compilation of data coming even from Egyptian kings. Relics were there of non-human origin for data containment included. So there was a lot of really precious stuff there. And as she says here, Aneka today, she says, they said that the entire library was burned. This is false. The Romans first confiscated everything, took it to Rome, then destroyed it. Destroyed that was the copies. So that's what I said. Okay, and here another important point is that when Flavians, when they were constructing this life of Jesus, they had a legion of scribes who were helping them. Some of them from the Palestine side as well. So they knew the stories, the local stories. So they had so many resources to do this. And they were using a technique that was widely used in that time, which was to take the real events, whatever happened in the present or the past, and then modify them, deform them, distort them to give it specific shape, credibility to the agenda, because it had to have some kind of credibility. So it couldn't be completely like taken out of nowhere, because it had to have some kind of reference there for people. And but they were basically based on Roman Stoicism, she says, and military activities of Titus. Yes, okay. Also, they used, like I said before, they used that concept of Messiah that was very common in that time, in that area. And the peoples of Palestine and Galilee, they were working with that concept of Messiah, and they had that concept for a long time already, someone who would save them from the persecution and oppression from Romans. So, and that concept actually came from two different places, because it was already ingrained in people's mind from Akhenaten and Nefertiti times, when those, in the stellar beings who were on Earth giving people solutions to problems and situations and appearing, from the sky and all that. So that concept of Messiah was present already in their tradition for a very long time. And as the Romans, the Flavians knew that they were waiting for the Messiah. So well, they want a Messiah. We will give them a Messiah. They used what the local people themselves were waiting for, to create this story. Okay, and here's Varu is explaining this Messiah idea again. I'll just read this because sometimes when I speak with my own words, I get confused. She says, the idea is ancient of the Messiah and comes from the time of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, selling to the local people the idea or concept that they are the Messiah or their priests, following the Atonist model of solar and monotheistic worship. And also, this concept of Messiah is fueled by the opposing branch of monotheism, Ammonists, because the concept of Ammonist Messiah comes from the ancient pre-dynastic Egypt and is associated with the appearance and positive guidance of the people on the part of legions of representatives from extraterrestrials. And that's related to Enlil also. And the next video, maybe you will like it, Jeff, because you like this stuff, is about Enki and Enlil.
Yeah, that's one that I'm not really up on. I know Gerald Clark did a lot of great study on that. So I'll be interested to watch that and learn.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a long video, 1 hour and 25 minutes. So the people on both sides in the local area, Ammonist side and the Atonist side, were waiting for the appearance of some kind of Messiah. They had that idea already ingrained in their mentality. So that was used. And like I said before, the term Christus or Christ was used with other characters, such as Christo David, who defeated Goliath. So it was not something specifically applied to Jesus Christ. Wow, Kitty.
That's Rooney. He's the new cosmic kitten.
Cool, looking straight at the camera.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. So she's saying very clearly here, effectively, every follower of Jesus Christ who is worshiping and giving that power to the Christ is giving their spiritual power and obedience to Caesars of Rome. If you were a Jesus follower, you are basically delegating your power to Caesars of Rome.
Will you say that one more time, Gosia?
What?
Will you repeat that one more time?
Every follower of Jesus Christ who is worshiping the Jesus Christ is basically delegating their power, their spiritual power and obedience to Caesar of Rome, who today is still on the throne with the name of Catholic Pope.
Wow.
That is nothing other than Caesar. And another hint here, Roman Empire never fell, still standing, and that is the Cabal. That is the root, and the tower hold, the place of the Cabal. And I asked about Israel today as well, and Aneka told me, Israel, how Rome relates to Israel. Who is the more evil Cabal here? And she said, well, Israel, which is Isis, Ra, the sun, Elohim, the God, no, that's Israel. They have been always a puppet of Rome. Rome is the ultimate Cabal and has been for the last 3,000 years at least.
Wow.
Now, they gave, this story of crucifixion of Jesus to give it a little bit more of a dramatic flavor to that Messiah martyr, to give him even more respect, someone who dies for your sin, and also as a warning to anyone who dares to cause trouble.
Ooh, good point.
Yes, and of course, he dies at the age of 33, and we already know that 33, that's a Masonic number, and they operate with symbols and esoteric ideas, and that's a very Masonic number there, 33. a very important number for the Atonist Cabal creators of Jesus. There's a lot more here. As if you want to know, if you want to see the whole video, you have to visit my channel to see everything. There's some mention about Nahamadi texts, Dead Sea Scrolls. I will maybe skip that because it's been an hour already. How much time do you have?
Well, that's up to you, but I know that you had prepared, a speech. If you get through that, maybe we could take a couple of calls, and if you have a chance, we could come back another time and do the rest of it. You're in charge, Gosia. You're our guest, and we want to do what works for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to the end. I'm reaching the end of the first transcript. Then I have a second one, which is shorter. So let's try. Okay. The idea, for example, that Jesus comes, the idea of Jesus being in India, for example, there are people who say, oh, there are records of people, there are records of Jesus in India. Well, that just comes from other Christs or other messiahs who were just like popping up as mushrooms, as Baruch said at that time. So logically, some of those messiahs and Christ could appear in India. They could reach India because we are speaking here of hundreds of those Christs. But the thing is that every time you see the word Messiah in the text, they used to pin it. They were pinning it on Jesus Christ, but they were different people. And of course, as the time goes by, they were adding things to the story. They had a lot of time to do that. For example, and when there is a hole in a story, when there is something not known what Jesus did for many years, there's no record. She said, well, no, there is no record because they make it up. They made it up. So, of course, not everything will be covered. And they are also resorting to the biblical mystery. They came up with that biblical mystery idea term to basically just cover the holes in the story. There is a hole in the story. That's a biblical mystery. That's, there are other terms for that. But that's basically because they didn't bother to invent that part of the story, so they don't know what to say. Here she's here she's stressing the point again. And this, she told me that we could go into every single detail here of parallelism between Titus' military campaigns and Jesus' story. There's just so many parallels to prove it to you that it was based on his military campaigns.
Yeah, Joseph Atwell in his book Caesar's Messiah really brings that out. And I think one of the most famous ones is there was a battle that Titus was, it was in Galilee, at the Sea of Galilee, and the Roman forces routed the Jewish forces so much so that they were jumping in the water to try to swim away. And Caesar's forces were actually stabbing the Jews with a sword or with spears and fishing them out of the water. And
yes.
The exact, Gosia, you know this, the exact same place that happened, Jesus told his disciples, I will make you fishers of men.
Yes,
exactly. Absolute parallel of the campaign of Titus. And that is your whole New Testament, ladies and gentlemen. That's your whole Jesus.
It's true. It's so true. And people, if they could only have time and they could, dare to look into this, there's information available on earth. You can study it. But I do understand also that it's so kind of twisted and buried, and there's so many of those researchers who are giving credibility to the story, but they are also basing themselves on implanted story or paid cabal agents who are inventing things. Or it's so difficult for ordinary people to kind of navigate through this, but the evidence is available, like you said. Now here I asked Svaru about Jesuits, and if they are Jesuits.
We pronounce it Jesuits.
Okay, Jesuits, and if they are aware of this lie and this story. And well, she says basically that probably maybe the lower ranking ones, the priests and the lower ranking Jesuits, they might not be aware of everything, but they definitely do know, especially the ones on top. And they continue to use that to perpetuate it for crowd control. So she definitely she says that they know it. But as she points out here, She says, we have come to realize that theologians are seriously monitored. And this also answers your questions. Why is it so difficult to research this and to, to address this topic? She says, we have come to realize that theologians are seriously monitored and controlled by the religious elites, in this case by the Jesuits, who, as we have said before, are none other than the Illuminati. No difference, no difference. As the same happens with the scientific branches, official scientific branches on Earth. They are guardians of their established matrix science. So the Jesuits are the guardians of their official established religion through which they control the population. So if it doesn't fit with their way of seeing things, how they establish things to be, it is not taken into account, it is ridiculed and just not considered at all. Now, yes, she's saying here the normal people, she understands that the normal people in the public, sometimes they don't have the access to the information that we are providing here. Because sometimes it's difficult to filter through thousands of texts and books and videos made on the subjects. And many of them were made by the Jesuits part, by the Matrix part, with the 2,000 years of story creation, with the enormous economic resources and labor that they devoted to this story. So the average person will have a hard time. And here I'm going back to the beginning of what I said in the very beginning, when people are so impressed and wowed by the amazing constructions of the cathedrals, and they right away, they feel powerless and they feel like, wow, this has to be something of great power. So the same here, they see this great elaborated story. They see this, let's call it evidence and records and photographs and graphics and whatever. And the whole Jesus story, and they feel it has to be real. It's so huge that it has to be real, because they are completely underestimating the power of the controllers and how of the resources they have to set things up, and to create lies. And here, as Baru said, it's the same as Mesoamerican Indians when they were marveling at the arrival of Cortés, and they were impressed by all the glass beads and glittering things, and they were impressed by graphics, performances, photographs, and the volume of information. And just by that, they took everything as true, because that's what the experts say, it has to be true. So unfortunately, that's the situation. The same here, but again, let's not underestimate the power and the resources they have to set things up and to. I mean, look what happened just in the world in the last year. Like, what the hell? I mean, what happened? I mean, I don't know what your views are on this topic, but from our perspective, it's all a setup and a lie, and how fast they were able to turn the whole world around. So
Gosia, it's interesting too. When we think about it, Gosia, people are accepting this setup currently. They're accepting this lie currently. They're accepting all these falsehoods currently. And maybe it's a little bit easier to understand why they're so willing to accept it now, when for 2,000 years they've accepted a lie, a setup, a falsehood, and a storybook. Exactly. It's just so easy to guide people into the lies, It's amazing. Now here, this is going to be like a delicate information as well. She says, apart from the Jesuits, and there's another order beside the Jesuits that she accuses of hiding the truth. And although here many names are intertwined, and Masonic orders, the names, but they are basically the same priests as the old, solar god Aten, and that society is called like Gahonam or something like that. I don't know how to spell that. Gahonam Secret Society. It is such a secret and ancient society dating from the time of Akhenaten that very, very few people know on Earth about its existence.
even though this is a society that runs things from behind, and they are basically the puppeteers of everything what goes on Earth, and they are part of the Jesuits. She says here, they are part of the Jesuits, the deepest part and link to the high-grade Masons. And that is where the symbol of Masonry, G, comes from. It is their signature.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are the true puppeteers behind the Jesuits, with a base in Rome, where the orders come from.
That's amazing. And what were they called again?
Gahonam or something like that. I'm not sure
Okay.
about the spelling, and she didn't know either.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, but it's, that G symbol that they use.
Mhm.
So now, okay, I went through the first transcript and first video.
Gosia, how would you feel about taking some calls from the audience?
Yeah, sure. I have a second one. If you want, maybe we can meet another time for the second one if you prefer it that way.
I think that would be great. Let's go ahead and I know that you've been here now over an hour. Let's just take a few phone calls from folks. And then when you have time, we'll come back and do the second part. This is absolutely fascinating information.
Yes, because the second one kind of flows out of the first one. So it will be important to mention those points as well. Like I told you,
or would you rather not take calls and just go through your second part real quickly?
I'm not sure. Also because actually I'm not an expert on the subject, so I may not even have answers to your people's questions.
Gotcha. Okay, well we will we'll forego the calls.
No. Let's try. Let's give it a chance. But I'm not guaranteeing.
Well, believe it or not, I don't always know the answers either, and sometimes the best answer is I just don't know, right? Okay,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and take a call. And we ask you to be polite. We ask you to be interesting. Get right to the point. And as soon as I say hello to you, you'll be live with Gosia. So go ahead and state your question right away. And I probably, once you state your question, I'll hang up and go to the next call. So don't think that I'm mad at you. It's a special edition of Late Night in the Heartland, and you're live with Gosia.
Hi, Gosia. I really enjoy your work, and your research is very good. I wanted to suggest, if you haven't read it, Caesar's Messiah from Joseph Atwell. There's a lot of overlap in the information that you present, as well as John Lamb Lash, who Jeff had on last night.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, yes, I'm aware of that. After I made a video, actually, many people suggested that to me, and also they said that, yes, there are a lot of parallels there, because like I said, this is not specific stellar information. If you want specific stellar information, we had a lot of that on the channel. We tell you exactly how the UFOs operate and quantum computers and all that. So that's specifically from them. But this story has its origin on Earth. So of course it's going to have Earth information. So thank you. My image is blurry. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
It just looks like you're trying to wipe away cobwebs or something.
No, I'm trying to make it come back to clarity.
Yeah, that's funny. I do the same thing. You can see the phone number. It's 913-279-0831. It's right there above my left shoulder. Pardon me, not enough time to hit the mute button. Thank you. And also on the bottom, the lines are open, 913-279-0831. If you have a question for Gosia about her presentation today, I've seen a couple people put questions into the chat room. Don't be shy. Feel free to go ahead and call in and ask the question. Gosia's channel is Cosmic Agency. You can find it on YouTube. And Gosia, what is your Spanish channel called?
My Spanish channel is called Agencia Cósmica. There is also another one by my work partner, Robert, Despejando Enigmas. And also there are other girls who are doing videos on Pleadian Knowledge channel. They are also in contact with the same team, and they also provide a lot of information there. All the transcripts are on the website, Svaru, SWARUU.org. all the transcripts of the video. So you don't even have to watch the videos. You can just read it in PDFs.
Wow, that speaks to credibility that you put that out like that. I salute you for that. Very, very well done. It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Gosia.
Hi, Gosia. I just wanted to ask, I always see like stars. It looks like stars moving, but they move really, really slowly, and like they just go like so far that you just can't see it anymore. So I wanted to ask you if you know what those are.
Stars moving. You know, there could be so many different things. Do you know actually that the Taygetan ship that is actually in orbit, and it orbits the Earth, and on a very clear sky, you can even see it. You can even see it far in the distance.
Have you seen
the point moving.
Have you seen it, Gosia?
I haven't actually myself. I'm not very much into UFO sightings and UFO. It's like that never really interested me much. So I don't go out there looking for lights in the sky moving. No.
That's
even
funny.
though they told me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's funny that doesn't really interest you, and yet
Never.
they choose to contact you. Maybe that's why.
I don't think they chose me. Like I always say that to people. I don't feel like I'm not some kind of a chosen one. They since 2008 they have talked to hundreds and thousands of people, because that was one of their missions, to contact people on Earth and assess their level, their mentality, what they think about extraterrestrials. Are we ready for the contact and whatever? And I was just one of those. And I chose myself, as I always say, to provide this information to the people, to share. I'm like one of the few ones that share, but they have been talking to many.
Interesting stuff.
So anyway, the question, it could be so many different things. I don't know. I really am not an expert on that subject specifically, but it could be one of their ships. Who knows?
It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Gosia.
Hi, Gosia. I am so excited to speak to you. I've been wanting to call in and speak to you for a long time, and I wanted to ask you a question about the Chumash Native Americans, indigenous people from Santa Barbara, and the Hawaiians, and what is their role, and how do we oust the deep state with our powers?
Great questions.
Actually, I feel like it blanked out for a while, so I didn't catch the whole question. Jeff, can you repeat the question for me?
Yes, that was Laugh Dancer, and she was asking if you know about the native Chumash people, the native Hawaiian people, if they have any stellar origins. And she also asked how you feel that we can help overcome what we call the deep state and come out victorious.
Oh, what a difficult question.
Absolutely.
I get so nervous when I get questions like this. It's like so much responsibility for me on providing a good, inspiring answer. I'm actually online now, and now this is like a little surprise for you with Aneka.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I actually forwarded that question to her. She just appeared online, and she says, "I'm here if you need me." Thank you, Aneka. And so I'm asking her about the Chumash and Native Hawaiian, because I don't know much myself. All I know is that Native Navajo have a connection with the Taygetans, to the point that even Taygetans can understand their language. Their language is very, very related to the Navajo. So now Aneka is responding about the Hawaiian thing, and what can we do to overcome the deep state? I'm asking myself this question as well, but I just think all we can do is do what we believe we do best, what our talents are. Everybody is different. Everybody will be able to apply themselves in a different area of life. Like, for example, I suck at direct confrontations with people. So I can never talk to people on the street telling them about, things. But I'm better at doing videos, But maybe other people will be better at other things. So whatever you feel you are good at and you feel comfortable and you enjoy, that's where you go and contribute. As they said once to me, do everything you can, and this is applying to the specific situation now on Earth, do everything you can and a little more, because this is the most important time in human history since time at wars. This is a very serious war situation that we're having right now. But to come victorious, I don't know, to be honest, if we will be able to come out victorious from this. Maybe will, maybe not. I don't know. I don't attach myself specifically to the result. I just do what I feel is right and what I need to do for as long as I feel I want to do it. And I'm letting go of the rest that is not in my direct control.
Very well spoken, I think. We can't really attach ourselves to the results. We just have to do everything that we can. And a little more, as Annika would say. Very, very well.
I have the answer from Annika. Annika says this. She doesn't know about native Chumash, but Hawaii, I'm just reading now.
Okay.
Hawaii has a deep connection to stellar races, and they are in contact their way with the stellars.
Wow.
They also talk about having a landing site for us there. They already made it. They are in contact mostly telepathically, native Chumash. Now, she says one thing to overcome deep state. Stop playing their game. Mass disobedience with no direct confrontation.
Wow, that is powerful stuff, and I will absolutely concur with that. It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Gosia.
Hello, Jeff and Gosia. This is Monica. I am Monica. Gosia, I have a question regarding, you say that sometimes the entities, or I hate to call them entities, but they try and contact you. How do you know for sure if it's who's contacting you? Because I'm having little episodes of what I call unusual experiences, but I don't know where it's coming from.
Great question, Monica. How would you respond to that, Gosia?
Well, yeah. I have myself no experience of any specific entity like I think in the context of what you are talking about, Monica. So I couldn't even know myself in that sense, in the astral realm or in my mind or telepathically, how to specifically discern. I mean, that's why I'm so grateful for this type of communication that I have, because it's so very direct. There's no interference here really on the mental level. And throughout these 3 years, I was able to establish this deep connection with them. I know specifically who they are. I know who they say they are. But in that context, I mean, it sounds very cliche, but it just really does come down to your inner intuition and feeling. There's nothing more to it, really. But at the same time, be open to question it. You know, I have questioned that I get many times, but not like question who they say they are, but I have questions for them, you know, and I want to understand things, and I'm not afraid to ask those difficult questions. So
excellent.
I would just say go with if it feels uplifting, if it feels expanding and liberating, and you feel your life is better as a result of that encounter, then I would say continue in that direction. Let's see what Annika says, actually, because I also asked that question.
Please.
She might answer a little bit later. I'm not sure she's on right now.
And please give Annika our greetings. And of course, I want to, since she was so gracious to make herself available to you, if she has any personal message or exhortation that she'd like to share with this audience, I would certainly welcome her to do so.
Yeah, thank you very much. She can hear you. If she's listening, she can hear you. And I would also add to that previous question. I mean, I think a lot of experience and a lot of inner work to try to discern and to have a clarity of mind. So everything that helps you to actually be a clear channel and clear, pure mind. You know, starting from diet itself, you know, the diet itself can mess you up and can mess up your connection with the higher state. So anything like that can help you in that training yourself to discern. I think it's not easy. It's not easy, I would say, but it's possible.
Can Can my wife pose a question to Annika if she has a chance to answer it?
Yes. I don't know if Annika is online anymore. She's not writing, but yeah.
All right. Well, maybe you can answer, or at another time we can get the answer. My wife will fairly regularly see large orange orbs in the sky. She has a feeling that they are not just a natural phenomenon, but they are some type of an extraterrestrial intelligence. And she just wanted me to ask if Annika or you have any idea who or what those may be.
Okay, I'm just typing in the question.
Okay.
One second.
All right. Take your time. And we have another call if you want to take that as well. Let me know.
Yes.
I'll let you finish typing. And we'll make this the last call. We need to let you go.
Let's go with the call. Yes, Annika is responding there.
Okay.
It takes time. The communication with them takes time because you need to wait for the response. Yes.
Absolutely. It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Gosia.
Hi, Jeffrey. It's Caitlin Wheeler.
Hey, Caitlin.
Hi, Gosia.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, you're doing such an amazing job. Thank you so much for this information.
You're welcome.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question about the crop circles because about, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I had watched a video about one of the crop circles. You're familiar with what those are, I'm sure. Yes.
Gosia, you're familiar with crop circles, right?
Yes, crop circles. Yes, I'm sorry. I got distracted for a second because Annika was responding. But crop circles, yes, I'm familiar, yes.
I remember one of them supposedly being decoded. And I just remember reading what was decoded and it resonated with me so much. I'll never forget it. I think it said, I might get this wrong, but it said something like, beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises, something like much pain, but there's still time. And then I think there might have been another part to the decoding, but I was just curious. So anyway, I'm remembering this as you're talking, and I was just curious if you knew, are crop circles created by controllers? Are they created by extraterrestrials? And do you have any idea? Yeah, just basically if you know who they're created.
Excellent question. What do you say?
Yeah, we have already explained that in one of the earlier videos, a few years ago, about the crop circles and how they are made. If you look at our website and there is a word search, you can actually search the transcripts by word. So you can type in crop circles and it will appear. That transcript will appear. But yes, there are definitely a lot of them done by the extraterrestrials. A lot of them are done actually by Andromedans with their technologies. And now there are so many different reasons for them appearing. Yes, they do have coded information in there to appeal to our subconscious mind and activate certain parts. However, the interesting point that I remember from that video, well, now I don't remember everything, is that some of those crop circles were actually like a message to other extraterrestrials. They're like markers that they leave in space-time to leave some sort of a message to other extraterrestrial races. There is some kind of a coded communication between them. So I don't remember the rest of that explanation. There are other reasons why they appear, but they are definitely real. And they are definitely appearing done by the extraterrestrials. Taigetans do not create those crop circles, at least not at the moment.
Interesting. And what did you get a response from Annika?
Yeah. And in the beginning, she was understanding that when the question was about the entities from Monica, how do you discern? She thought this is the question referring to this contact, and she says how do we know they are who they are? I guess, and she just says, well, just as you said, go with your discernment. Okay, and how can you know who is contacting you? She said you can't. That's referring to this contact, because the federation that is controlling the cabal, and that's another big can of worms, federation controlling the cabal, is also controlling the rules we must follow. So as you said, go with your discernment. We do not want to convince anyone. That's true. They never really try to convince anyone. We are here only for the ones who see us as useful. Otherwise, we would not be public, because we know most people do not understand what and who we are. And now I told her, I think the entities here is referring to the channeled and astral entities. And she says, yes, you can only know, like you said, by the energy and the message for you. And remembering also that good and evil is only relative to the observer. That's a very interesting point as well. And about the orbs, orange orbs in the sky, it could also be many things. If they are not in orbit, they could be orbs. If they are not in orbit, they could be orbs. Or they could be, if they are in orbit, the exhaust plasma ionizing the atmosphere around a cloaked starship.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating.
If they are in the orbit, yes.
That's fascinating, Gosia. Well, Gosia, I just want to thank you for taking so much time out of your Saturday. I want to thank you for bringing such amazing information. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us before you leave? And please, one more time, give us both your website and your YouTube location so that people can avail themselves of your information. And thanks so much. And again, if you have anything that you would like to share with us on the way out, please feel free to do so.
I would like only to say that, Jeff, if you want to continue with that Jesus story, because I have a second transcript also summarized. Do you want to meet for that second part?
Absolutely. I would love to do that. We'll talk through email and we'll set it up. It'd be my privilege to have you back and finish that. It's fantastic information.
Okay, I'm just thinking that we should do it soon, because then people are going to get out of flow and they're going to forget what we're talking about. So.
Well, we can do it in the next week or two, whatever works for you. Look at your schedule, let me know, and we'll do it.
No, my schedule is pretty open. We can do it this week, and this way people have fresh information in their mind. So whenever you can.
Do you want to do it the same time next Saturday?
We can do it even earlier if you want, if you have time.
Okay. All right, good. I'll get with you by email after the show, and we'll set it up for this week. So exciting, folks. Like Cynthia says, yes, that'll be wonderful. We're going to do it again this week. Thank you, Gosia. And what else do you have to share with us?
And well, I would just only want to share, my Cosmic Agency channel. You can look at the information there. There are more than 250 videos on so many different subjects, crop circles or whatever, stellar navigation, technology, biology, spirituality, metaphysics, time travel manipulation, timelines, karma, reincarnation, whatever. Everything is there. You can also go to the website svaruu.org.
And that's SWARUU.org.
Yes, and you can look at transcripts by their search names, by words, and the transcripts from Pleiadian knowledge are also added there, and also the Spanish ones. And I have so many other videos to make still in line. Now, the next video is going to be about Enki and Enlil, then many other things. I have a whole video on the solar system, like a saga about the solar system. Every single planet will be described in detail, and many other things. And
one more question on the way out. This caught my eye. Brandon's asking, can you ask Gosia what the relationship, if any, is between the Federation and the Orion group?
Okay, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
No worries. Is there any connection between the Federation and the Orions?
Okay, this is a question for America. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if she's there. I know she's working, but
well, if she doesn't answer right away, we can get that answer next week. But
she's answering. She's answering.
Excellent. And we'll end the show with this.
So all I just want to say on to summarize that whole Jesus topic, part one, is that yes, this is a Roman story, and we are under this Roman spell and dominance for centuries. And it's very logical and very clear when you really think about this. It makes so much sense.
It does.
And research this. It is not just coming from us, like you said. There are sources for this. If it interests you, do your own research. Do not just believe me or believe anybody. Just look at things yourself. What else? Annika is responding. Okay, she says, okay, wow, I didn't know that answer myself. Federation and Orion Group. She says, yes, and yes is in bold. She says, yes, there is a connection. They are in full cooperation now. But Orions are not regressives. Perhaps they were before, but not as of now, at least officially. At least officially, because you also have to remember that the races evolve through time, and many even reptilian races are now coming over, to the other side and changing their perspectives. So that's what she said.
What does she mean by the word regressive? Do you know?
Regressive is just regressive. Again, it's a matter of perspective. Everything is a matter of perspective. But from our perspective, regressive, negative, controlling, dominating, against the positive spiritual evolution of humans on Earth.
Did she say they're not currently like that, or that they used to be?
Yeah, she says perhaps they were before, but not as of now, at least officially. At least officially. But the thing is that there are a lot of factions there within the federations and those groups. And sometimes not everything is known officially what they're up to, so they are in full operation. And she says, she's listening, by the way, she says, yes, regressive to human point of view and interest. So from our point of view, regressive to our interests.
Gotcha.
Of course, from their perspective, they are not regressive. They are operating from their level of understanding and what serves them. So it's a matter of perspective.
Wow, fantastic. Gosia, I want to thank you again for being with us. I want to thank Annika for the high privilege of her stopping in. We really appreciate that. And I will get with you later today. We'll set up a time next week. So look forward, ladies and gentlemen, to another special, spectacular program with Gosia. Gosia, we appreciate you very, very much. I'm happy to call you a friend, and I wish you all of the best, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Thank you very much. And just one more sentence. She added, Alpha Dracos are in the orbit now, Alpha Draconians, and they are loving and positive creatures.
So we would think of those as reptilians. So there are positive and loving reptilians.
Of course.
I love
Alpha
that.
Draconians are the positive ones.
And I'm not a guy like you, but I know that I have been contacted by beings that say that they are reptilians, and they have let me know very specifically that there are reptilians that are just as upset with what's going on Earth and the subjugation of humanity, and they in fact will be helpful to us as we overcome and take back our sovereignty, divinity, and freedom.
And that's true. That's a very interesting point, and that is definitely true.
Thank you so much, Gosia. We appreciate you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for your questions. Bye. Bye.
What a great show. What a great privilege to have Gosia on with us. So that's going to wrap it up today, folks. I don't know, earlier, I don't know if you noticed, I kind of disappeared, but my computer, since our power went out, got a little bit wonky. So I don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. But I know that Gosia worked really well, and that was a fantastic show. And we will have her back very, very soon, and within the next few days. And we'll finish this discussion about Jesus from the Taygetan Pleiadian perspective. And I want to thank Annika for being available and for entering in and answering questions. And I welcome her contact in the future should she desire to do so. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. I salute you for being here, seeking after truth. And we'll see you again Monday night at 10 p.m. Central Time on Late Night in the Heartland.